Hello, everyone. My name is Helena Otero, and today I would just like to begin with a single number $16.6 billion. That is how much Americans reported losing to internet crime in just 1 year, 2024, according to the FBI. It's a record high, and it's up a full third from the year before. But the thing that struck me most as I researched this topic is what sits behind that number. The attacks doing the most damage are, for the most part, not the most sophisticated Hollywood style attacks that we see in movies and that we tend to imagine. They win by exploiting human error and skipped fundamentals. Over the next 10 minutes, I want to show you how. I researched 4 computer fraud and abuse techniques. 2 of them I'll examine in depth: ransomware and business email compromise. And 2 more I'll point out along the way: SQL injection, and credential stuffing. For each of the big 2, I'll answer the same 4 questions: how it works, how widespread it is, who has been victimized, and what exactly we're doing to stop it. Here's the lineup. Ransomware locks up an organization's data and demands payment to release it. Business email compromise tricks an employee into wiring money straight to a criminal. Those 2 are my deep dives. The other 2 are worth knowing by name. SQL injection is a decades-old web attack in which malicious database commands are slipped into an ordinary input box, a login field, a search bar. And it is still near the top of the industry's list of risks because applications keep getting built without proper protections. Credential stuffing takes the passwords we leaked in one company's breach and replays them automatically across hundreds of other websites, betting that people reuse the same password everywhere. And they're right often enough that it works. Notice the password already. These are old, well understood attacks that still succeed because of sloppy code and really just human habit. So let's put some numbers on the problem. Everything here comes from the FBI's Internet Crime Complaint Center and its 2024 report. That $16.6 billion in losses came from 860,000 complaints. As the chart shows, the trend is steep, from under $7 billion in 2021 to more than $16 billion just 3 years later. But I want you to hold one caveat in mind because it matters for everything that follows. These are only the reported direct losses. They do not include downtime, recovery, lost business, or reputational damage, which are usually far larger. And a great victim, they just never report it at all. So, whatever number you see today, the truth is really much bigger. Keep that in mind because my first deep dive shows it perfectly. Ransomware. Most of us think of it as malware that scrambles your files and demands a payment to unlock them. And that's really just the classic version. But it has grown into an organized industry. Think of a cartel. The business model is now ransomware as a service. One expert group writes and maintains the malware, then rents it out to so called affiliates who carry out the actual break ins, and the 2 sides split the profits. That's why it's spread so far. The people launching these attacks no longer have to be the expert programmers. The break in itself usually follows first 4 steps. First, they get in through a phishing email, a stolen remote access password, or an unpatched software flaw. And this is the modern twist. They quietly copy your most sensitive data out before doing anything visible. And fourth, they encrypt everything and deliver the ransom demand. The third step is what defenders call double extortion because they've already stolen your data. Having good backups is no longer enough. They can still threaten to publish everything you'd hope to keep private. It defeats the old device to just restore from backup. So, how common is this? And what does it look like when it hits? In 2024, the FBI logged More than 3,000 ransomware complaints, up 9%, and named ransomware the number one threat to a company's critical infrastructure. A single criminal group, Lockbit, was behind roughly a quarter of all attacks that year. Now, let me make it concrete. In February 2024, a company called Change Healthcare was attacked. You may not know the name, but it processes about one in every three Americans' patient records. The criminals got in using one low level employee's stolen password on a remote access portal that did not have multi factor authentication. One missing control. From there, 9 days inside the network, 6 terabytes of data stolen. Pharmacies across the country were unable to fill prescriptions, and 74% of hospitals reporting a direct hit to patient care. The company paid a $22 million ransom, and the attackers simply took the money and vanished without even securing the stolen data. And here's the figure I want you to remember: that $22 million ransom sits right next to an estimated total cost of over $1.5 billion, roughly 68 times the ransom. That is the hidden cost point from a moment ago, made painfully real. So, what's being done? Defense comes in really just two forms. The first is basic organizational hygiene, and these are the government's own stop ransomware recommendations. Number one, phishing resistant multi factor authentication on every remote login. That is the exact control whose absence opened the door at Change Healthcare. Number two, keep backups that are offline and tested, so encryption alone can't hold you hostage. Number three, patch known variables quickly and divide your network into segments so an intruder can't roam freely. And the second form of defense is law enforcement, which has become far more aggressive. In 2024, a 10 country by the UK and the FBI ran Operation Kronos. They seized Lockbit's servers, froze its cryptocurrency, and even took over the gang's own website. The FBI later recovered more than 7,000 encrypted decryption keys and used them to help victims for free. The lesson they want every organization to absorb is simple: paying a ransom funds more crime and guarantees nothing. Prevention plus fast reporting beats payment every time. And that brings me to my second deep dive: business email compromise, or BEC. If ransomware attacks your machines, this one attacks your people. In most cases, there's no malware at all. The attacker simply pretends to be someone you trust: your CEO, your supervisor, a lawyer, a familiar colleague, and uses that borrowed authority to get an employee to move money or change payment details because it rides on completely normal business processes. It slips right past spam filters and antivirus software. There are two ways in. The first is spoofing, which is sending an email from a lookalike address where an R and an N together pass for an M at a glance. The second is more dangerous: account takeover, where the message comes from a real hijacked mailbox. And the criminals often spend weeks reading genuine email first, learning the company's tone and payment routines. It shows up in a few familiar customs: the urgent wire request from the boss, who happens to be traveling, uh, the the trusted supplier who emails new banking details, the employee asking HR to redirect their paycheck to another account. If you remember one thing, remember the formula on the screen: authority plus urgency plus secrecy plus a last minute change in where the money goes. Man, that's just a recipe for disaster. You can stop this by just picking up the phone. And here's what really just makes this technique extremely dangerous. In 2024, there are only about 21,000 BEC complaints, the seventh most reported crime, fairly far down the list. Yet those cases caused $2.7 billion in losses, the second highest of any category. The Secret Service estimates the world loses around $8 million to BEC every single day. Why so much money on so few cases is really the question at hand. Because BEC goes after large corporate wire transfers, not individual shoppers. Look at who's been caught. Mattel lost 3 million. Toyota Bishoku, they lost 37 million. Ubiquiti lost around nearly 47 million, and Facebook and Google together lost about $121 million to a man sending fake invoices from a lookalike vendor. These are sophisticated, well defended companies, and notice Ubiquiti recovered only 8 million of its 47. Recovery is really the exception and not the rule. The good news is that the defenses that are most likely any organization can adopt tomorrow. The single most powerful one is the first, out of band verification. Any request to send a wire or change bank details get confirmed through a separate known channel, such as phone call to a number that you already have on file. Never by simply replying to the email. That one breaks the entire scheme. Around it, build payment controls. Require 2 approvers for large transactions. Add a short waiting period and follow a set procedure whenever a vendor's bank details change. So it's never one person and one click. Also, turn on multi-factor authentication, which shuts down the account takeover route. And train your staff to treat urgency and secrecy as warning signs rather than reasons to hurry. And if all of that fails, speed becomes your best friend. The FBI's rapid response team froze about $561 million in fraudulent transfers in 2024, but only for victims who reported within hours, not days. So the rule is simple. If you suspect it, call your bank and file a report immediately. So let me bring it all together. 4 techniques, but really just one lesson. Across ransomware, business email compromise, SQL injection, and credential stuffing, the attacks that win are rarely the most advanced. They win simply by exploiting human error and the basics we skip. So I'll leave you with 4 things to carry out of this room. First, multi-factor authentication is the fix that keeps reappearing. Its absence enabled both changed healthcare and those business email thefts. Second, verify out of band and keep tested offline backups. Both take away the attacker's leverage. Third, the human layer is the real target, which means awareness and clearer procedures are not soft skills, they're frontline defenses. And fourth, if you're hit, report fast and don't pay. Quick reporting can freeze the money and recover the data, while paying only funds the next attack. My sources are on screen. The FBI, the Cybersecurity Agency, CISA, and others. Thank you so much, and I'm happy to take any questions in the future. Please feel free to leave a comment on this YouTube video in order to ask questions and just generate some stimulation. Have a great day.